This time on Road and Race, we fit stiffer anti-roll bars and see what effect that has on track. An anti-roll bar is basically a piece of metal that connects the front or rear wheels of the car together. In a corner, it reduces the amount your car leans to one side, helping it stop one wheel from lifting off the ground, thus giving more grip, thus helping you turn better. So what if we go out and fit stiffer anti-roll bars? Will that allow my car to corner faster and thus get a better lap time? Well, I wanted to find out, so I ordered a new anti-roll bar kit from Whiteline. You get an adjustable front bar, adjustable rear bar, new drop links, retainers and stiffer polyurethane bushings to hold them in place. First up, we get the car up on ramps and remove the under tray. Here's a look at the front anti-roll bar. Looking a bit grubby and a bit rusty, to be fair. Here's how the anti-roll bar connects to the car. It's got a little drop link bar. Again, showing a little bit of wear and age. We'll need to remove this first. Next up, we have to remove the bracket that holds the anti-roll bar to the chassis. It's held on with 4 rather rusty looking bolts. So a generous coating of penetrating fluid is in order. So that's the front bar off. I've put it on a little workbench here to see what condition it was in. Here you can see the powder coatings come off and a bit of surface rust has set in. Nothing too structural, but doesn't look very good, does it? The original bushings that came with the car have, well, basically split and are pretty much on their way out. It's a good thing we got to this change now. And also, as you'd probably expect, the car's done 76,000 miles. These drop links are really worn out. They're really loose. They should be quite stiff, but they're just kind of wobbly and flop all over the place. So they don't really give much support, and it's probably why the steering feels a little bit loose. As a comparison, here's the new adjustable drop links from Whiteline. This one's quite stiff. See, it's quite hard to move this, you see, which is good. That's what you want. Here's a comparison, the original anti-roll bar at the top and the new Whiteline anti-roll bar below. So here's a real-world example of how things can go wrong when working on your own car. When removing the anti-roll bar bracket, I sheared a couple of bolts, simply down to them being so rusty. Whilst I pondered on that problem, I thought I'd get the rear of the car up on ramps to see how easy or hard the rear bar would be to remove. Here's the bar running across the back of the car. I'll just point it out here. Again, looking pretty old and a bit crusty. Here's the rear drop link that needs removing. And here's the bracket holding the rear anti-roll bar on. As you can see, the nuts are looking particularly rusty and horrible back here. It was at this stage I thought, well, you know, I could try getting these off, but if they shear, it's just going to be another problem to deal with, isn't it? So with that in mind, I decided to get some professional help. I travelled down to This Is Your Garage in Oxford and met up with my friend Adam from Volkstechnik. With the car up on a lift, it was time to get to work. First up, it was a grinding disc to get rid of any part of the bolt that was still sticking out. And then we used a little finishing Dremel to get the rest of the little bits off. A pilot hole was drilled, then a 6mm hole, and then finally a 6.8mm hole. And then it was time to crack out the tapping tool to cut a new thread in. And as you can see, a new bolt screws in quite nicely now. Next, it was time to move to the rear of the car and remove the rear anti-roll bar. Again, plenty of penetrating fluid here. Luckily, the bolts loosened fairly easily with a breaker bar, and then using an impact they came out. As the bolts were so rusty, a quick tip is to go back and then forth on the nut, just to clear off any rust you get caught in the threads. The drop link on the driver's side came off fairly easily. but the link on the passenger side just wouldn't budge. So as we were replacing the drop links, we decided just to cut it off. So first we cut the rear anti-roll bar off because it was basically getting in the way, and then the stubborn drop link itself was showing the door. Just like the front, the rear drop links were pretty worn out. Look how loose that is there. Here's the old bar compared to the new one. So, next up, let's get the front anti-roll bar fitted to the car. As you can see, we've already put the drop links on. Bit of grease to stop the poly bushing squeaking. Then the mounting brackets get added back, and then the bar gets bolted to the car. Once the bar is lined up correctly, the retaining clips can get tightened up. Then connect the drop links up and torque all the bolts down to spec. So here's the front anti-roll bar fitted. Moving back to the rear of the car, it was time to fit the rear bar. Annoyingly, as much as we tried, we couldn't fit the rear bar in because the exhaust was in the way. We loosened up some of the exhaust mounting points, which gave us a little bit more room, but again, just wasn't enough. So what we had to do was remove the rear W brace and disconnect the exhaust. With all that stuff finally out of the way, we were able to fit the rear bar. And then the drop links go in. And after all that, here's the rear bar finally installed. We're setting the rear bar at its softest settings, and I probably should have mentioned earlier we set up the front on its softest settings as well. This is because I need to drive the car back home, and this is probably the safest configuration if you're not used to the car. We then headed off to the track to see what difference these stiffer anti-roll bars made to the car.
We're going around for a few laps now, and the car isn't that much stiffer. I mean, that's probably to be expected, it's on its softest settings. But it's slightly more stiff, I'd say maybe 10% more stiff. But we do notice the car is a lot more pointy. The nose does tuck in a lot sharper now, and the car just feels a little bit more stable. I don't know if it's just me feeling a bit more exuberant today, but I'm chucking the car in a bit more aggressively than I would normally. I think maybe that's because it feels like you can now. Obviously all the drop links are new, the anti-roll bar bushings are polyurethane now, so you expect it to be a little bit stiffer than stock to begin with.
I then unpacked Gary from the boot of the car where I store him and set him off to do a fast lap. His previous fastest time around Bedford Autodrome was 3 minutes and 2 seconds. Would he be any faster now? Oh, and apologies, there's no camera shots of Gary in the next few sections. The GoPro didn't record properly. Saying that, it's probably for the best anyway, isn't it?
Right, it's time to put a lap down with Neil's anti-roll bar fitted on the loosest, softest setting. I've been out and done a few hot laps and the car is feeling good. It's feeling nice. I still think the car does need some suspension mods. It's still a little bit... I mean, it does tuck in quite well, but you do get a little bit of boaty motion in the corners. I just think a stiffer suspension setup would cure. The back feels a little bit more stable now with the new setup. The rear is a little less likely to step out on you. Back squirming as the front dips under braking. I love track days.
With the new anti-roll bars on their softest settings, Gary was able to make it round 1 second quicker with a 3 minutes and 1 second. We then headed back to the pits and put the front bar on its hardest setting.
So let's see what the front anti-roll bar on its stiffest setting feels like. The car certainly is a bit more pointy now. You do feel a little bit more confidence turning in. So let's see if I can get the car to understeer on this hairpin here. A bit hard. Yeah, I want understeer now. Too stiff would be better, but I'd say it's actually upset the balance in this car. We've gone from quite a neutral handling car to one that kind of understeers now, and it's a little bit more tail happy and wants to step out a bit. So I'm not sure if that's actually made an improvement, really.
Gary then went out and did a hot lap with the front anti-roll bar on its hardest setting, but was no quicker, only managing a 3 minutes 1 second again. Then it was time to adjust the rear anti-roll bar. It has 3 settings, but as we were running out of time, we decided to go straight to its hardest setting.
So here we are, fully stiff at the front, fully stiff at the rear, no messing about with the medium setting on the rear. Let's just go straight to full stiffness and see how the car handles. This is either going to make the car nice and balanced, or it's going to be all over the place. So let's have a look.
Having driven for a few laps now, I'd say the car feels balanced again, nice and neutral. It does feel like you corner harder though, and the steering feels quicker. It feels like you don't need to turn the wheel as much to corner. Saying that, the overall feel of the car is not that much different to when the anti-roll bars were on their softest settings. Gary then went out one last time, and once again got a 3 minute 1 lap time. So on to summing up then. Generally, I'm very happy with the way the car feels on just its softest settings on both the front and rear. The car has slightly less body roll, and the turn-in is quicker. We can see that stiffening the front anti-roll bar promotes understeer, and stiffening the rear promotes oversteer. So from my experiences so far, stiffer anti-roll bars don't in themselves make a massive difference to lap times. They're more of a fine-tuning tool to control understeer or oversteer.
Very, very tight hairpin here, and if I just try and get the car to oversteer, I do that.